room?
No, all the way through to you just letting him go.
Oh. Just trying to give America a good show.
Golf, take one, dead track, Naomi Mark.
Action.
Hello, Michael. I knew you would have come for me sooner or later.
You know, Laurie obviously has changed over the years. It's not like she's this little repressed virgin anymore. I mean, she's a weathered, tired, beaten down human being because of all of the things she has suffered through.
Are you afraid, Michael? Are you afraid to die? I'm not afraid to die, Michael. Because you failed. Because I am not afraid of you.
I think the little girl we once knew and liked a lot is no longer, you know, really who's here anymore.
Jamie Lee Curtis has an amazing presence as a person and as a personality, and that invigorates and excites any set she comes onto. She's just very knowledgeable about filmmaking and the process.
I was arriving on set one day with my girlfriend, who was helping me unload some of my stunt bags, and Jamie came up and she said, "Oh, y'all ready to do the scene today?" And I says, "Oh yeah," and she says, "This is how we're gonna do it." She comes right up to me and gives me a big kiss right in front of my girlfriend, and my girlfriend was like, "You never told me Jamie Lee Curtis kisses you at the thing." And I said, "Honey, honestly, I didn't think we were gonna shoot it that way," so it was quite funny.
Is Ruby neck? Not yet.
So there, and then I'll come back out and then redo the shot.
Very good, perfect.
It's so cool to know that you're working with someone who is officially a part of this series, and I gave her a tiara for the ever-present Hollywood Scream Queen, and I got a bottle of Chloraseptic throat spray for screaming, which is great, but she is one of a kind.
And cut.
That's a cut. Okay.
Good.
I think it closes the chapter on Laurie Strode once and for all, which I think anybody who's a Halloween devotee would find that very satisfying, just to have that come full circle.
I think you need to end that Halloween story before you go into the new Halloween story, which is, I think, tremendously successful, very compelling and exciting. You know, it's a very modern, very, I think, good installment of the Halloween series.
She's amazing, and just to be able to jump on the bandwagon of something that she's carried on for so long is awesome.
Of course, it's great to have somebody who started off the franchise and who has grown under the eyes of the audience, and H2O was certainly a strong movie for her, but this is in many ways even stronger because she's allowed to let the events that occurred in the previous movie inform how she plays this character and what the character is all about. I don't know, I kind of divide the world into people who get it and people who don't, and Jamie's definitely somebody who gets it.
I'm trying to give my all in this last sequence to just make sure that I say what I feel like Laurie really wants to say, and that I send her off with a little bit of poetry.
What's really cool about Halloween 8 to me is that it is current. It's what's on the pulse of the world right now, the internet.
The really, really cool part about this film is we have the cameras on our head are working cameras. And we are literally live feeding into video, and they are recording every time. I mean, it's like essentially, you know, walking around with our own camcorder, and that going on a big screen in a theater. You know, the stuff that we saw and how we moved our head, and you know, it's almost like a different artistic side to acting in a film.
6 surveillance cameras throughout the house. There's a camera at the bottom of the stairs that shoots up, and a camera at the top of the stairs that shoots down. TV room, living room, and we don't have it up, we have the dining room and the kitchen. so we can monitor everything going on at once.
A very important part of this show was that these cameras are being worn by the actors. These cameras are being seen by the audience. So we went through a huge ordeal on what these cameras should physically look like. The original idea from production was an extremely small camera, and we went through several different types. And we always had to look at picture quality was always important, because sometimes the smaller the camera, we did not get the picture quality we were after. The best quality, of course, became too big of a camera. So we finally compromised on the cameras we have now, which are considered a lipstick camera. They're about the size of a lipstick container. From that, we had to go to a control unit for that individual camera so we can control what that camera looks like, then take that into a transmitter to send it so we physically don't have to put a wire on the actor. It became a big ordeal that these things have to be seen, but they did not want them to look like Borgs or like the Ghostbusters. There was this whole scenario, many, many meetings that went over how these things physically would look. And it took quite a bit to get to the scenario we have now.
This is your Elmo camera, which we've attached to a pack as this. So we've tried to make it look kind of stealthier. The wardrobe themselves put this all together as a holster. This is for Bianca, and it comes onto her hip.
By putting the cameras on the actors' heads, we get a magical footage that you couldn't possibly have planned. The way they look at each other, the things that they do, when they lift their hands up and it goes in front of the camera. Great moments that we couldn't have ever gotten any other way, and you really get into the actor's point of view. And it's fun, we get to spy on everybody at all times. Between the cameras, our headsets, and the walkie-talkies, we know what everyone is up to at all times. I don't know if the actors like it very much, but we know what they're doing.
Oh shit, I have gum in my mouth. Can someone... So sorry. So sorry.
Just the other day, Bianca and Luke, they did a scene and they ran out of the room, and I think they stopped. You know, technically they'd usually stop acting once they've gotten out of the frame of the film, but because we're running surveillance cameras, we take the scene further. So the two of them ran out, and Luke said to Bianca, they weren't filming that, were they? And Bianca said, yes. We're always filming all the time. They're watching us all the time. And Luke said, no, they're not. And Bianca said, I'll bet you $5. And he said, okay. They had no idea that I was eavesdropping and watching the whole conversation. So over the headset I go, Luke, you just lost $5. And he was a little freaked out. It's like God watching.
There's a whole sort of new ballgame out there, and kids are picking up digital cameras, both still cameras and video cameras, and really creating their own worlds. So when I read the script, it seemed to me it had this sort of millennium sensibility to it, which was to mix digital video and film and create sort of an interchangeable new medium.
I don't think anything like this has ever been done before, as far as I can tell. I think audiences have seen video footage on film. They've seen the Blair Witch Project. They've seen reality television, where they're used to cameras being shaky and people talking candidly, but I don't think that anyone has ever put cameras on an actor's head and sent them inside.
Michael's here!
I'm the production designer of Halloween 8. My name is Troy Hansen, and we're in studio right now, Fast Cat Studios, and where we've built Mike Myers' house. It's based on the original house in Halloween 8, but we've extrapolated from 1978 to age it 20, 30 years now. And probably the biggest challenge in recreating the house is that doing it in an entirely artificial environment. That we have blue screens here because we're CGIing in a background, because there's no appropriate locations in the city where there's actual dilapidated houses, empty lots. I mean, empty lots get built upon. That was one of the considerations. Also, for the time of year that we're shooting this, it's we have very short evenings. We have 4 to 5 hours, and of course, we need blackness for a good, 10, 12 hours. So we've got shoot off. That's a fake wall of a house there, and we'll have another one over here. We've got a backdrop of clouds here. This is all, it's an entirely created environment. I mean, all the trees and grasses have been brought in. The sidewalks are cement that have been painted. We've laid asphalt here because one of the considerations here is that we could not paint. We brought in street light, which we shot on an actual street location, but we shot from the point of view of the house across the street. And so now we're looking at the house, and we're going to cut that into into the location. So the challenge was to create it artificially, and I hope it works.
I forgot the princess's cappuccino machine.
We're in the backyard of Mike Myers' house, in front of the garage. In the original, there was no garage, or we never saw it, so this is, again, a fiction. We created the garage because there's a lot of action that takes place here. As you can see, there's a van here unloading equipment for the netcast, and all the video stuff ends up here in, sort of like a little video village. And we also burn this garage, and that's at the end of the film, and that's the demise of Michael Myers, or alleged demise of Michael Myers.
Burn, motherfucker!
We're standing in studio in front of Mike Myers' house. In creating this, we took the original film and we took Mike Myers' original discovery of the house. He was coming home late at night, it's Halloween, and he walks by this window here. And this is the TV room, and he saw his sister sitting on the couch with her boyfriend. They were making out, and then they run upstairs. Then we followed him around the outside of the house. And a lot of the house we never saw in the original. So Mike Myers comes through the back door here, into the kitchen. He came over to a drawer, took out the knife, turned around, then walked into the dining room here. So this is a recreation of the dining room. It's not the original wallpaper that was here, but thematically it's the same kind of pattern that was in the house of 1963. Then we followed Mike Myers into the TV room. This is the room where we just observed from the window where his sister and her boyfriend were making out on the couch. Then he followed them up the stairs here into the front hallway and went upstairs to his sister's room where he murdered her. Because it's all on stage, we've had to build a house on 2 levels. We didn't have a high enough ceiling, so we only have the main floor here. We've cheated a second floor. The ceilings aren't quite as high as they would be originally, so that's on another set. This room here is the living room, which has never been established in any of the Halloween movies. And with this Halloween movie, we've gone back to the genesis, to the original Mike Myers house. Here we are at the entrance to the tunnels. This is sort of the sewer tunnels of Haddonfield. We modeled them very loosely on the sewers of Paris, but consequently that's why they're so much more scaled down. You can see that this is all made out of vacuform and styrofoam bricks. And when it's all done, it'll be painted and it'll be seeping there'll be algae and molds and slime. There'll be rats running around, rat bones. There's entrances and exits through these sewer pipe openings. And in this sort of fork in the road is where Mike Myers may or may not have been living for the last 30 years. Horror movies are fun. You get to go places that you would never go. You get to create things that are over the top, that are darker, more decayed, more decrepit. Everything is more. It's fun to be working on a Halloween that, like as a kid, you would never think that you'd be making a Halloween. Like, who knew they'd be making Halloween 8? So that's been fun. And also to take that original concept of the first Halloween and extrapolate from that, to take what was interesting and what worked with that, and then make it contemporary, to give it a new spin, to update it and make it something different.
Hey, Mike!
I feel very privileged to work with the crew that I have been. The painter's been fantastic. Construction, set deck, props. I mean, everybody's been working around the clock because we've had a very short prep time. And I mean, we had a new script coming out just 2 days before camera, so everything has been crunched and changing, and everybody has risen to the task, and it's really great.
We're gonna get her back for that. Watch me.
Did you remember to get the night vision? I mean, I don't want to miss anything because of low lighting.
I got it so covered.
Wow.
Hey.
Max, what up? What's going on, big fella? I like that. I like you. Look like we in the Matrix over here, Max. Nora, you stepping your game up?
Oh, baby. Bow down.
I like what I see,
I
darling.
know you do.
I'm very, very much impressed with you. Dangertainment finally ready to blast off.
Ow!
You okay?
I don't know. Who the hell are you?
I'm Deckard.
Did you remember to get the night vision? I mean, I don't want to miss anything because of low lighting.
I got it so covered.
Wow.
Hey.
Max, what up? What's going on, big fella?
Buster just showed you what we call the salmon, that handshake. That was a handshake I developed for him. I felt it would help us bond, and I never counted on how much it would help us bond. He's taken over the salmon, and that's his new handshake.
Off.
Ow!
But don't forget, in this version, Buster appears to be dead. Michael's already kind of wrapped up, and the danger is not from Michael Myers. The danger now is from the fire and the fact that Sarah's trapped. So Michael doesn't pose a threat here. The threat now is merely the threat of fire. Now in comes our young high school hero. And racing against only the time of fire, he rescues her. So here the emphasis is very different. The focus is on the uniting of internet pen pals, as it were. Not necessarily romantically, but there's a little bit of touch of romance in the air.
I'm Deckard.
One of the unique aspects of Halloween Resurrection was that we had this idea we wanted to shoot a lot of digital video from the point of view of all the characters. The 6 characters that go into Michael Myers' house are all wearing little mini DV cams, lipstick cams. And pretty soon you forget that they're wearing them because they kind of disappear. But what it enabled us to do was at any point in the film we could show you what each character was seeing. The idea down the road was that we hoped to have an interactive DV where you could decide to follow the storyline. You could follow the film just from Sarah's point of view, or just from Jen's point of view, or just from Bill's point of view. And pretty soon we'll be able to bring you that, but that takes a little more time to prepare. Right now, what you're watching is an entire 40 minutes of the film just from the point of view of different video cameras. We've got all the characters' cameras And then we've got surveillance cams. We've got 18 cameras, 18 video cameras working.
Are we supposed to be looking for answers?
All right. The devil made him do it. I'm done.
We owe it to the people watching to at least take a look around.
Oh, that's cute. You're already worried about your fan base?
We've got 6 cameras, from one from each character. And then we've got 6 surveillance cameras on the first floor in each of the rooms, one in the kitchen, one in the dining room, one in the den, one in the living room, and one on the stairs looking up, and one on the stairs looking down. And then we've got 6 more cameras upstairs. So the idea was that at any point in the course of filming, any point in the course of editing, we could say, well, let's see what Rudy's character, like right here, Rudy is looking at Sarah. Let's see what Rudy's character is seeing, or let's see what Daisy's character is seeing. I felt that this would be a very interesting way of differentiating the characters. But it led to one of the bigger controversies in the early stages of planning. The question was early on, how are we going to create all of this video footage? And how are we going to edit it, more importantly? And one of the proposals was, my proposal was that at all times, whenever we shot a scene, we shot digital video simultaneously. That meant if there were 6 characters in a scene, we had at least 6 digital cameras rolling, plus the surveillance cameras, plus film. Well, what that meant was that sometimes the film camera was in the wrong place, so that one of the characters' cameras was picking up the film camera. But at other times, even in that same shot and over the shoulders, one character would see one character's camera would see the film camera, but the other angle, the character's camera would see just the other character, or what we thought. Here's a pretty good example of seeing one of the characters. Bill walks away from Jen's point of view, and then Jen starts to walk after him, and all of a sudden he steps into her point of view. Anyhow, the controversy was this. We were going to end up shooting a tremendous number of hours of video, so everyone thought. Why couldn't we just shoot the scene on film and then take a video camera and simulate the point of view? And I said, sure, we could do that, but the problem would be if we have 6 characters in a scene, we're going to have to go in and shoot it 6 different times from 6 different points of view, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of time to do that.
What is that?
The second thing I really liked about shooting video simultaneously is we didn't know what we were going to get. We couldn't predict what we were going to get. These cameras didn't see exactly what the characters were seeing because there was an issue of parallax. By that I mean that this wasn't a reflex. We weren't looking through specifically the eyes of the character. We had a camera on over the ear, tucked over the ear, that was sitting parallel to the character's eyes. So it meant there was a slight discrepancy between what the eyes saw and what the camera saw. And what that did was it created a kind of imprecise vision. It meant that sometimes characters would look down and what they would see is somebody's knee or a hand as opposed to the face. And we had a lot of interesting happenstance. A lot of the framing has a very pure documentary feel to it because it's imprecise. And it's much more the way we tend to look at things. It has movement, it shakes. We're not always framed perfectly. Sometimes heads are cut off. Sometimes we're framed too low. But I think it's got a kind of an immediacy to it, and that's what I really liked about it. And so finally, after a lot of discussion back and forth, we finally decided that the best way to do this was to do it spontaneously, that every time we ran a scene, we would run the characters' video cameras.
Careful.
And what that meant was we had a tremendously spontaneous amount of footage that caught actors in unguarded moments because they weren't aware that they were being photographed. They were just looking at their fellow actors. The characters were looking at each other. And I think there's some really interesting moments. A moment like this, for example, when Bill turns back and he's seen from Jen's point of view, or when he looks into the room for the first time and looks in the mirror, and all of that to me is really fascinating. This shot here, that's one of the only shots that I felt when I saw this video footage. I went, gee, I wish I put that in the film. Almost everything else, what we did was we shot all this video. We cut scenes in a very traditional way on an Avid with a bin for each scene. And then we stuck all of the video that related to that scene in a separate bin. So at any point, we could just pull up, okay, well, let's see what the video cameras show. So really, it was an organizational task more than anything else. We really just needed to organize the video in such a way that we could pull it up whenever we wanted to. So Bob Freddy, the editor, cut the scenes traditionally with film. He reviewed the video, and then we'd go, you know what, this would be great to put video in for just this snippet. Now, what you're seeing is 40 minutes of edited video, but it's all video. There's no film here at all. In the finished version of the film, there's less than 10% of video. And yet the video image is very omnipresent. You really have a sense of it throughout the whole film, but you're just seeing little snippets. You're just seeing 2 seconds here, a second and a half there, 6 frames here. And I think it's what gives it, the whole film, a certain energy and a certain style. And I really like this conceptually. Down the road, as I said before, we'll be able to bring you a special edition where you can choose to pick any one character to follow, and you can see what that character's seeing until, of course, the character meets an untimely demise. But even then, there's generally an image left on the video camera.
Oh, come on.
This was the first scene, actually, that we cut on film using the video that we had generated. This was the test scene. This was the scene that everybody was waiting to see. How are we going to integrate the video with the film, and how would that work? And the editor, Bob Freddy, I think he was a little skeptical at first, but after he cut this first scene and he looked at it and he saw that shot just previous to this little scene here where the fan is spinning around as a point of view, he said, boy, I really like that footage a lot. And that was kind of how the style of Halloween Resurrection was born. It was early on cutting that one scene.
Sarah, I'm telling you, it's in the food. Remember that guy who was on trial in San Francisco for murder? All he ate was Twinkies.
Rudy, do you ever think about anything other than food?
There's a kind of seasickness that I think can occur if you watch too much video without any kind of film to ground you. And yet, I think this section goes by pretty fast. I find it fascinating to look at, and I often wonder what would have happened if we had actually done a lot more video. The more video you have, the closer it gets to Blair Witch, which was not our intention. The less video, when it's just integrated and you've got beautifully shot film as well, I think it works better. I think it adds attention to the piece.
Jen? Jen?
What was kind of fun is that after a while, the actors became pretty adept at being videographers. You know, they began to understand what parallax meant, and they began to frame a little bit. They'd look at each other, not so much out of the corner of their eyes, but they'd know that if they looked straight into another character's eyes, you wouldn't be able to see exactly what you were hoping for. Here's an example of how powerful seeing this whole killing from just Bill's point of view is, I think. I mean, I think this would have been a very strong moment in the film by itself. I like the way we've integrated it with film in the film, but as just a pure video moment, I think it shows you the potential of this kind of use of the medium. And also it says that films of the future, I mean, the first sort of videographers that tell a really strong story just on pure video I think they're going to have something. You're going to see a couple of movies that come out that are very commercial, shot just with a simple mini DV cam and edited on Final Cut Pro. And I think that may change a little bit the landscape of filmmaking. You'll still always need to tell a good story. I think the story will always be the key. But suddenly the means of production will be available for an awful lot of people who won't have to spend a ton of money to make movies.
Look at this.
What is it?
Don't know. Let's check it out.
You okay?
I also like the roughness of the imagery. I liked all of the glitches that we got and the sound dropouts and the occasional stuttering of the image. I thought it just hooks you a little bit more. It just brings you in. And I also thought that the lighting scheme that we had created for the film was accentuated on video, so that the Alice blue gel that we used for the night light and the burnt orange that we used for the sodium vapor lights outside became even more intense on video.
You know what? He's gonna try and jump out of somewhere and scare me. You watch. You watch.
That's one of my favorite images that's in the film, and I just thought it was extremely strong. No, she didn't get to stick her tongue out in the final version of the film, but up until that moment, I thought it was very strong. And they're just a series of quick cuts of quick images. This was another sequence that worked quite well in the film that brought you into these characters.
You're such a Lothario.
I don't know what that means, but...
Just go with it.
Hold on a second. Just thought of something.
You've got to be kidding me. This is the room where we're gonna find answers.
I don't know. Looks like any normal boys' room.
I love the color in here particularly. This was one room where the color went a little haywire, and you could see the amount of blue that's coming in and the contrast that the video can't quite figure out what to use. And each video camera had a slightly different color balance and resolution. So as you went from camera to camera, the color change jumped. And I just thought it was interesting. Here's a series of different points of view. People looking at the key in the trunk.
Let's see what we got.
Now we're in Sarah's point of view. Now we're in Rudy's point of view. Now we're back to Sarah's point of view.
You gotta stop doing that, okay?
Here's the surveillance point of view. So it's a little bit like live television in some ways. I mean, we've got all these cameras and just cutting back and forth. Here's a great example of using a character's point of view. Interestingly, because these are all video points of view, unlike the film, which has Michael Myers' point of view moving through the house, here Michael Myers is never in this section, and yet because we've established his presence, I think you almost feel the absence of Michael Myers' point of view. You almost feel like, where is he? He could still jump out at any one moment. But never, of course, he's not wearing a video camera, so we never get, in this 40 minutes, we never get Michael Myers' point of view. And that's in the film. One of the things I think makes it very scary is when Michael Myers is moving through the house and looking and searching for these kids.
This ain't right.
Well, it's obvious that the boy was subject to emotional and physical abuse.
No, I mean all of this is not right. All this stuff is too easy. Why is all this stuff still here? Answer that, Nancy Drew.
There's somebody in the hall. Don't worry about it. It's probably just Bill.
I can't tell if I like all this footage because I know but I've also got film footage here that cuts really well. Or if this just harkens back to my documentary days, I started out as a documentary cinematographer and filmmaker, and got very used to shooting with an Éclair back in the 70s, and these were my roots, and so it was in many ways kind of fun to get back to the idea of shooting a kind of documentary style. And the only thing missing here, of course, is that in the 70s we all used these Coke bottle lenses, these Angenieux 12 to 120 lenses that you constantly had to zoom in and focus and then pull back, and generally when you edited you'd cut out the zoom and the focusing, and you just go from the wide shot to the close-up and back. Here, of course, there's no zoom lenses. There's just moving the camera by the characters moving around. There's a little trickery in this sequence, because when they take their cameras off and let them drop, they don't drop to the floor randomly. They appear to, but really I'm down on my knees catching one camera, and I have a tiny little monitor with me, and I'm placing it down low just so that we can frame a shot like this. And Max, who is our video technician, is on the other side, and he's catching the other camera. He's placing it so you get to see the shoes, or you get to see a shot like this. So it isn't quite as random as it seems, but except for this sequence, everything else you saw was completely shot just by the randomness of how the actors looked at the other actors. Now, what's kind of interesting here is we had no idea what would happen when we broke this wall, and here's a shot that just happened. I mean, we had placed a video camera on the floor, and that skeleton just came out and landed there, and I didn't even know, for example, that the necklace would be on that skeleton. I had no idea. I mean, we had just packed all these skeletons behind the wall, and then we had pushed the wall apart and everything came out. But you couldn't predict that kind of framing. In fact, without having seen it in videotape, you'd never even conceive of it. At least I wouldn't. I wouldn't think of saying, oh, let's do this shot where when the wall breaks, skeleton comes out wearing a set of pearls, and we're gonna land that skeleton in such a way that the pearls are hanging down. Now here's a sequence where Michael Myers is in the house, and of course he's not wearing a video camera, and neither is the other Michael Myers, so the only way to really tell this sequence is through the surveillance cameras. And because we're now suddenly, it's the first sequence so far that we've seen where the cameras aren't moving, they're just surveillance cameras, this to me doesn't have quite as strong or an immediate effect. And now we've got the limitation of no matter what surveillance camera we show, we can't quite see what's really going on. And that was the design. The whole idea was that we didn't want the audience who's watching all of this, not the film going audience, but the teenage party audience, to be able to quite see what was really going on, because we didn't want to give away that there were two Michael Myers. So here you can't really tell what's going on.
Shit ain't working up there or something? You need to take your ass in the back of the garage with Nora. That's your job. Go back there with Nora and help her ass out.
So the TV audience is just seeing one Michael Myers at a time. They can't really figure out, now what is going on here? And here's one character, it looks like it's Michael Myers, and then the next surveillance camera, the next angle here, you can't really tell what's going on. It's very confusing, which is what we wanted for the audience, the teenage audience at the party. We didn't want them to be able to make perfect sense out of the fact that there were two Michael Myers, which meant one of them had to be a fake.
Damn it, come on. Let's go find Freddy.
But once Michael Myers gets loose, the stakes escalate, and suddenly, as we'll see in a minute, what seemed kind of safe, interesting but safe with all the video cameras and seeing different points of view, suddenly now the stakes are higher, and what these video cameras reveal is, I think, much scarier. By looking at the points of view from a character's viewpoint, I believe the audience is really drawn into this film, and there are shots in this sequence that we used that is integrated into the cut of the film, because it feels so much to me like we've now put the audience inside a character's head. We're seeing what a character is seeing, so we begin to identify with this character.
Hey, Freddie. Is this all part of the setup?
So we discover, as the character of Donna discovers, that somebody's been sleeping under this house, that there's a bed and there's a clipping of Laurie Strode.
Laurie Strode, sister of Michael Myers, survives Halloween night massacre.
And things begin to get a little bit creepy.
This prop. Oh my God!
So those shots are in the film, and they're integrated into the film sequence, and I think they're very scary, because suddenly now the killer appears, and we're seeing him approach from Donna's point of view. And so much of this is suggested, the violence is suggested, rather than being graphic or particularly gory, but I think its abstractness makes it even scarier. And suddenly we have one less video camera that's moving around, because we've got a character who's no longer with us. But that last image, that image of the air shaft grate, that's an image that continues on. So if you were looking at the film and you were saying, well, I want to see the film from Donna's point of view, you'd still be able to reference back to that. You'd say, okay, well, I guess she's not going anywhere. And you'd move on and say, okay, well, let me see this now from Sarah's point of view.
Calm down.
I think of all the 6 actors, Bianca caught on most quickly to the fact that what she looked at wasn't exactly what her eyes were looking at. So she was pretty good about just glancing a little bit, tilting her head a little bit, acting a little bit more like a camera. And she got a lot of really strong images.
He was in here.
Then one by one, the other actors, they all caught on to the fact that you sometimes had to look a little differently.
Wait. It's me, Freddie.
Freddie?
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing?
Damn, man. You hit me like I murdered your fucking mother or something. Relax.
So now we're back to seeing, we're seeing Busta from 3 different points of view of the characters, 3 different character points of view, and the surveillance point of view.
You knew you didn't have a show anyone would watch, so you set us all up at our fucking expense, huh?
What expense are you talking about? You ain't contributed dime to setting up none of this shit. Besides, don't nobody want to see any of y'all running around no empty house, possibly coming up with nothing any damn way. America don't like reality, first of all. Second of all, they think the shit is boring. You know what I mean? They want the little razzle-dazzle, a little pizzazz, a little thrill in their life. You know what I mean? And us being the ones that give it to them, I don't see nothing wrong with that.
I so did not sign up for this.
Y'all need to do me a favor, all right? Just go along with the shit. Don't blow it. Not now. You really have no idea of how nicely I work things out so that we all can receive somewhat of a robust back end when the shit is all over. Now, I don't know what you want to do about your share, but please don't fuck it up for me. I want my money, all right? Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to go scare the shit out of some more of these motherfuckers. So, I'm gonna get it cracking. Y'all do what the fuck y'all gotta do. See y'all.
Here you are, Bill.
All right, so what do you guys want to do?
I don't know. I mean, I could use the money.
One of the tricks was that we often had lights when we were shooting with film cameras, and so we'd have lights, you know, lighting a close-up or lighting a two-shot, lighting it over the shoulder, and those lights would stay in the way of the video camera. So what we began to do, we sort of got the drill down as we began to either shoot all video for a rehearsal before the lights came in, or after we had shot film and we began to take the lights out before we moved on to the next setup. We began to, we'd shoot a all video take. So here's a surveillance camera. That was Jen's camera that had fallen off her head. And now we got a lot of different points of view going on. That's a low-angle surveillance camera, which the character Jim grabs. That's why it's moving around now. He's got a camera, and he's going to use that camera as a weapon. He's just swung it. He's going to swing it again.
Jim, run! Run! Oh.
And see, the framing slightly off there. It's not, you don't see both eyes, but I think that's really interesting, very powerful, and very scary that you just see a snippet of him. You don't see the full face. Makes it twice as scary.
Hey, Mike. Yeah, I'm talking to you. You want a piece of me? You should try to less protein in your diet, you know? Show some of that aggression.
You can see sometimes there's a light in the shot. Sometimes it's a practical light. There's a case where there's candles back there, and on the right you're going to see, well, there on the left you see a flag and all that, but that doesn't stay in that. We just cut around that when we want to use a shot like that. I really like the glitches here. We had to work. Sometimes we'd enhance them in the cut of the film. We'd show the video piece, but we'd put our own glitches in that we had found. We'd capture little pieces of glitches out of the video, and we'd save them, and then we just put them in as transitional cuts. That's the second dead point of view. That's the second character who's now met an untimely demise, and that's what you'll see anytime if you were following the film from Rudy's point of view. That would be the last image that Rudy's camera captured.
Deckard! Deckard, if you're there, please let me know. Deckard, he's killing all of us. He's killing us. This is real, please. Please, Deckard, help me.
I like all these upside down shots. I just think they're really fascinating. And this is from Bill's point of view. He's looking upside down because he's hanging down there. At least the camera's still connected, and that's what Bill's seeing, or that's what Bill would be seeing. I forgot actually. He's our first victim. Donna was the second one, and then poor Rudy's pinned to the door down in the kitchen. Again, jumping back and forth, here's a surveillance camera point of view. Now here we've got Sarah's point of view trying to climb away, her point of view of the ground down below. All this juxtaposed back and forth, I think it's very effective. I watch this, and I think that a lot of the excitement of the film, the way it was cut, is still apparent in all of this video footage. But there are things we miss. For example, by watching the film only from the character's point of view, of course, we're missing out on the whole party sequence and the way the internet ties the webcast to a group of people. Originally, it starts out with Miles just by himself at a party in a den, and gradually, as you watch the film, you discover that more and more and more of the party has emptied into the den, until finally, by the end of the movie, the entire party is sitting in the den or standing in the den transfixed and watching the webcast. So now we're down to the last of our characters, and last two actually, but we're down to Sarah, the last of the original 6 students, and Freddie, the character played by Busta Rhymes. But we've only got one subjective point of view left, and that's Sarah's character's camera. Still got surveillance cameras working both upstairs and downstairs, but we've only got one camera left that's attached to one of our characters.
Oh, shit.
See what you got.
I really like this moment, and this moment is in the film, in the cut film, when suddenly a surveillance camera point of view becomes mobile and something's going on and we can't quite figure out what it is. Later on, we'll discover that she's now wrapping this camera and its cord around Michael Myers, trying to use the camera as a weapon to restrain him, to keep him from going after Busta.
Fuck with me? Motherfucker.
And that's a pretty amazing shot. That was the camera that was wrapped around Michael Myers, and it actually went out the window as he went out the window. Now, pretty much the only camera left is Sarah's camera.
I saw his room. He's been living underneath this fucking house for who knows
They're
how
coming
long.
down the stairs. This is her point of view, but most of the surveillance cameras now, the one that used to be down below, that's what Jim had used to try to fend off Michael Myers. So this is pretty much the last camera that's really operating here. Oh, I take it back. There's one surveillance camera, I guess, that's still left up high that hasn't been tampered with.
Fuck is he?
This is bad.
Decker. Where is he?
Now, this moment, which is a huge moment in the film, doesn't quite work on video because you never quite see the appearance and the reveal of Michael Myers. But the moment after this, I think all of this subjective point of view is very powerful, and a lot of it's integrated now into the film. The more, the tenser the film, the higher the stakes, the more this kind of subjective point of view becomes very powerful. And there are times where all you know is that she's moving through space, through darkness, and we don't know where Michael Myers is. He could jump out at any moment. And I think a lot of this is very effective here. Half in dark, half in shadow. You're not quite sure where you're moving, how you're moving through space. And I think this added to the tension, a lot of the tension at the end of the movie. But all of this stuff was really effective. You know you're in Sarah's point of view. You know that this is what she's seeing. The momentary glimpses of Michael Myers are scary. Now she's looking for a way out. And a lot of this video we integrated into the film. Bob Freddy did a terrific job of integrating all the digital video in the film, and except for that one shot early on that I mentioned where Jen lights a candle in the older sister's bedroom, I think we got just about every really strong piece of video. Sometimes it's only 8 or 10 or 12 frames, but it's all really strong. That's a pretty interesting shot. Again, it so puts you in the point of view, the psychological point of view of the main character of our heroine, Sarah. And all of this has tremendous energy for me. There's a real sense of desperation of where to go, how to hide. And some of the imagery here is just phenomenally interesting and abstract, but it needs film around it so you understand what's going on. Otherwise, it becomes too abstract, and you really can't tell enough of the story. It's one of the few places where, because now we're down to just one camera, one point of view, it can't tell a full story. But boy, there's some really strong moments and fragments of images that I think are really worth having.
Motherfucker! Burn, boogeyman! Burn!
What happens here is, as she's picked up, Sarah Moya leaves behind her video camera and falls off. And so the last images we have here are of Michael Myers burning. Now this is a different video camera. This is the news camera's point of view. So Sarah's left her subjective camera behind, and throughout the end of the film, we'll never again see what she sees. Here we're seeing what the digital video cameras from the newsmen are seeing as they ask questions at the news conference at the end of the movie.
Michael Myers is not a soundbite, a spin-off, a tie-in, some kind of celebrity scandal. Michael Myers is a killer shark in baggy-ass overalls who gets his kicks by killing everything and everyone he comes across. I need to stop watching y'all screens right now. Might be standing right behind you. Right now. That's all. Done dancing for these cameras.
There's a much more traditional use of video, but what I like is the very end, we sort of get back into a sense of point of view.
Feel this.
So the very last image, Busta Rhymes turns off the cameras.